ได้รับเกียรติจากองค์กรยูนิเซฟประจำประเทศไทยนะคะจะมานำเสนอในหัวข้อที่เป็นประเด็นเกี่ยวข้องกับการสนับสนุนงานทางด้านพิพิธภัณฑ์ขององค์กรระดับโลกอย่างยูนิเซฟแล้วก็ขอเสียงปรบมือต้อนรับให้กับมิสเตอร์เจืองบักแฮกและท่านจะมานำเสนอในหัวข้อ Potential Contribution of Museum Without Walls in Implementing the UNESCO Recommendations on Museums. Next, and our last speaker today, Mr. Duong Bich Hak, the Chief of Culture Unit at UNESCO Bangkok office. He will present the potential contribution of museums without walls in implementing the UNESCO recommendation on museums. Please welcome Mr. Hak. ขอเวลาสักครู่ค่ะคือวิทยากรอาจจะยังไม่พร้อมนะคะอาจจะลงข้อมูลอยู่ใช่ไหมคะค่ะ
Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, or should I say good evening? Yeah, I know that it's already very late into the day, and you all have had a very long day, and I apologize for keeping you here now, and also thank you at the same time. I must confess that I'm not a museum practitioner. I am an anthropologist by training, but for the last 7 years, I have turned into some sort of project manager, administrator working with UNESCO. I guess you all have heard about UNESCO through our work in education, through our work in natural sciences, social sciences, communication and information, and then culture is also a big program of UNESCO. And you probably have heard about UNESCO cultural program through a set of conventions that we are supporting the country's state parties to implement. But then we do also have a small program on museum for which we work closely with ICOM, International Council of Museums, to promote the different mandates for museum, provide capacity building activities, and also to promote policies on museum. So today I will present, I'm going to beat the previous speaker that because my presentation is going to be even shorter, but so we are going to inform the audience today about the new recommendation on museums that just came out last year. Thank you very much for the organizer to be very flexible to give me this time. So we see a lot of similarities between UNESCO and museums. I mean, you can read. I think it's a very beautiful phrase that came out from the preamble of our Constitution. Since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. And then the conservation and protection of the world's heritage of books, works of arts, and monuments of history and science. So like we see the similarities. We are an institution that work to promote the social cohesion, engage the participation of the communities to build peace in the minds of people. And museum is, although very unfortunate that museum, we don't have a lot of funding for the museum program, but it is in the heart of our mandate. It is in the official approved program for this period running until the 1918, and I believe that after that, museum will continue to be an important part of our work. Unfortunately, most of our museum work has to be dependent on the extra budgetary resources, and we have been actively raising funds for this work. At the end of this presentation, I will give you very brief examples of some of the museum work that we have been implementing. So the recommendation on museums and its collection is a new non-binding international instrument on the protection and promotion of museums and collection. The process of that has been coming since 2011. And it is, although it's a non-binding instrument, we do encourage the state parties of UNESCO to take it into consideration and to implement it to the most extent that they can in their countries. So like I mentioned, we do have the 6 cultural conventions, which are the cornerstones of our work. The 2 well-known ones are the World Heritage Convention and then the Convention for Safeguarding Intangible and Cultural Heritage, which Thailand just ratified and became the 169th state party of the convention. So congratulations on this achievement. We also have a convention on promoting the diversity of cultural expressions, which very much related to the creative and cultural industries. We do have the Convention on Fighting Against Illicit Trafficking, which very much related to the work of the museum and its collection. And then we have a number of other international recommendations. So since 2011, the work to develop this recommendation that had taken place. And so there's a series of activities that have taken place. The expert meeting in Brazil in July 2012. We have commissioned expert studies by UNESCO in 2012 and 2013. And then in 2013, it is decided that we should move forward with the development of this recommendation. And so since then, an international intergovernmental expert meeting has been gathered and in May 2015 to develop the draft recommendation. And then finally, in November 2015, the draft recommendation had been brought to the General Conference of UNESCO, which is the highest organ that decides on all the most important tasks of the organization. And it is where the recommendation had been adopted. So the recommendation of this recommendation came out in the time that we are going through a lot of transformation. And museum, I believe, becoming increasingly important to address a lot of the social issues that have been faced by all of us today. At the global level, we see the significant increase in the number of museums. In 1975, we estimated we have only about 22,000 museums, while in 2012, the number of these museums have come up to 55,000 worldwide. And then we see a lot of challenges that museums currently face. We have listened to the previous presentations today to show that the museums don't only hold the traditional functions. There's a lot of new traditional functions that the museum now are taken on, like the example of the TAC in Laos, or the example of the museum developing the program working to helping the Alzheimer patients is a good example of this new function of the museums that reach out to the communities and engaging the communities in their work. And then, of course, everyone is aware and everyone talks about the tensions between the economic development and preservation of heritage, whether we have to sacrifice our heritage for the economic development, whether we preserve our heritage and then living in poverty forever. But then in a lot of time, we have noticed that heritage conservation and heritage preservation go hands in hand with sustainable development. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. And heritage preservation does bring the economic development to the targeted communities. And then we also talking communities becoming an increasingly important part in our work, even across all the conventions. For the Convention on World Heritage, recently there's a very important policy that coming out to engage local communities with the World Heritage Convention. For the Convention on Safeguarding Intangible and Cultural Heritage, there's also a new addition to the Operational Directive that really strengthens the roles of the community and then also the roles of intangible and cultural heritage in social and economic development. And then, yeah, we see very important role of the museum in this aspect as well. And then we all have agreed, I mean, I'm sure that many of you are here museum professionals, and we all agree on how museum can be served as a platform of education development of youth, or museum can be served as a platform for international, intercultural dialogue, and again, sustainable development. And then in this modern time, we see an increasingly mobility and globalization, and this is also the challenges, but also at the same time opportunities that museums are enjoying. We see many more interaction for the development of international exhibitions. There's lots of institution collaboration, not only within one country, but within many countries in the regions, and even many across the regions themselves. We see, like our speaker on Google have talked about how information can be moved so rapidly and intensely over the internet and through social networks. Many people now can sit at their desks and then going through many virtual tours. But then together with that, this is a very serious issues that UNESCO and many other countries and organizations are trying to address, which is the illicit trafficking. And at UNESCO, the work of the museum is primarily engaged with the work with the fighting against the illicit trafficking of the cultural objects in the museum, and a lot of our efforts now are supporting the museums in the Middle East, where there's a very heightened escalation of wars and conflicts, which you can see already on the news that a lot of the heritage and museum are being targeted by the terrorists. And then again, I probably don't need to talk more about this. A lot of the growth on ICT and technology have brought new challenges, but at the same time, many new opportunities for the museums worldwide. And then again, tourism. Tourism is also fastly developed. We notice from the cases or from the speakers that mostly tourists who are now the visitors to the museums. And then also we see the strong collaboration between museums and creative economy with the local communities for the development of craft, creative industry, performances, which enrich the experience of the visitors and at the same time bring benefits to the local communities. So this is some pictures from the meetings. You will see her tomorrow. So this is very briefly, I think this is quite lots of text. I probably won't be going through all of that. You could easily go on the website to read this recommendation. You can see that this is the structure of the recommendation. It has a definition part where it gives a definition on heritage, on collections. It highlights the primary functions of museums. It discusses the issues for museums in society. And then it has a policy section, both for general policies and functional policies. I think I can skip this. So this is some of these. I just highlight the paragraphs that actually coming out of the museum. Why is this recommendation has taken place? This desire to reinforce the protection provided by already existing standards and principles referring to the role of museums and collections in favor of cultural and natural heritage in its tangible and intangible forms and to related roles and responsibilities. So here the museum talks about the different functions, the preservation, the research. I highlight what I highlighted in red is the part that I think is very relevant to this the audience of the the conference in museum without walls, like in my understanding is, of course, I mean, in addition to the virtual technology that we talk about, but also this is very much related to the fact that now the museum is being brought out to the communities, and the communities are being brought in to be engaged with the museum exhibition, with the museum professional, and then so I highlighted the text in red that I think that it very well reflected these ideas that we are discussing in this conference. Communication is also one function, important function of the museum, and here we want to see the museum, how museum play an active part in the society. Museum are important channel for organizing public events, and then also to create the interactions with the public, where the public can be brought in and raise their voices. A lot of the exhibits are being offered now in that form. And then it's really an important channel for integration, access, and social inclusion, create more collaboration with the public and communities. And then one functions of the museum on education, where again we can see a lot of the activities that museum can take part. And then the globalization. So these are some of the issues. You can read on these in more details in the recommendation. So I probably won't be going through that. And then it also have a very lengthy section on the policies. And I think this is an important, it is a responsibility of UNESCO member states to implement the recommendation. And it is recommended that by 2019, the state parties will send reports to UNESCO about the implementation of this recommendation. So we look forward to many of the activities can be taken place in Thailand during the next few years, and then we will hear a good report from you. And I understand that as if you are a public agency, I think it might be worthwhile to use this recommendation as one of the justification when you want to ask for more funding from the government, because this is already a mandate provided by UNESCO. And also, if you read the policy section carefully, there would be recommendation for how you integrate the museum policies into an overall policy, how you spend money on capacity building, developing museum programs. So I hope that this is also of some use to your work when you can bring this to the attention of your authorities and the Ministry of Culture and beyond to when the budget cycle comes around. So on our UNESCO website, we have a designated page on museum where you can find all information on our museum work, including this recommendation. And it will also give you all the resources documents. We have a museum coordinator at headquarters, but we are here at the field office. Can also backstop and provide you with any information that you need. And I just take this opportunity to provide a couple of publications. I apologize if you might have heard about this already and are already using that already. And if you are, this is a very good news for us. But we have the training package on how to run the museum. This is a very hands-on practical handbook that I think that if you are working as museum practitioners at museums, and it will be very important. You can see that we have had a number of languages that the handbook had been translated to. It would be great if we can see a Thai version one day. And if you ever do that, please send that to us so that we can put that on our website. And then we also have developed a series of movable heritage outreach program, cultural heritage protection handbooks. As you can see, there are many topics security at museums, care and handling of manuscript, documentation of artifacts collections, handling of collection in storage, and then the latest addition is securing heritage of religious interest. And again, this is a very easy to follow, almost like cartoon-like handbook that gives very concrete suggestion on what to do in a certain context. And all this can be downloaded for free on our website. Yeah, so this is, I mean, the format that you could see is try to be very easy, not lengthy text like the recommendation. And then we also have the online training platform, Reorg. And so I welcome you to have a look at this website and maybe explore the training programs. So this is, I just want to give a quick example of a project that our museum sector had been doing with the field offices in Bangkok, Cambodia, Phnom Penh, and Hanoi, funded by Japan Funds in Trust. This is a 4-year, 2-phase project that we include 6 World Heritage Sites and 9 museums. There are some site-based museums, but there are also some museums that are located in the proximity of the site, but then also with the primary function to interpret the World Heritage Sites in that area. So the main purpose of this project is to build capacity for the heritage and museum professional from these World Heritage Sites on how to, in the first phase, we support them to build capacity on how to develop exhibition. And then on the second one is work with reaching out to the community and how to engage community in their work. So this is just some very quick example. We work with 4 site museums in Cambodia, 1 site museum in Laos, and 4 site museum in Vietnam. And like I said, that what we did was like we bring the professional from all these 9 institutions together, going through different steps of how to develop an exhibition with them. And then they go back and start working on the theme. The themes are selected commonly. So in this way as well, we can also jointly promote the World Heritage Sites of the neighboring countries. The same exhibition are being placed at the same time in 9 different exhibitions. So for example, if you go to Angkor, you can learn about My Sơn in Vietnam, and then if you go to My Sơn, you can learn about Wat Phu in Laos. So by that way, it creates sort of like open acknowledgement and understanding about the neighboring heritage. And so this is just some figures. There are like 30 core museum participants from 9 museums have been actively going through the 4-year project with us. We have engaged a wide number of experts from UNESCO, from ICOM, from ICROM, and from all other relevant organizations working on museum. There's a large number of our staff have been deployed to work on this project. 400 objects have been recorded, documented, and then presented in the joint project. So this exhibition, we don't have the actual artifacts, but then you can actually learn about a lot of the objects in storage of different exhibits. And then at the end, and then there's also a catalog have been developed with 3 languages. English, Vietnamese, English, and Khmer, and English and Lao. And then there's a very high turnover of the visitors, and also at the same time there has been also education programs that have been developed to engage local community, local students to come to the exhibit. And then for the phase 2 we try to again, like going along the work with similar to the work with TIEC is to engage the intangible and cultural heritage elements of the communities living around the site. So this is specifically for the two sites in Vietnam. What we did was we used the method called photo voice. So we gave the camera to the local communities who go and document the different aspects of heritage around their own heritage sites and see what is important for them and what is something that they're concerned about, or what also their impression about their heritage, their appreciation for their heritage. So that is a big part of the work. And based on the photos that the local people community took, we developed exhibitions that feature this work. So for example, you can see all of these photos are taken by the local community and then later being exhibited. But then these are not only just the photos themselves. I mean, for each of the photo is accompanied by sharing of these local people who took the picture, why they took the picture, what this heritage means to them, yeah, so it's the similar activities has been taken place in Ho Citadel, which is a heritage site in about 160 km south of Hanoi. And like, for example, these 8 men here, very gender imbalance, I know, but so these 8 men have been going around taking photos of what they feel is important for themselves or for their families. And then again, like an exhibition has been curated based on the photos that they took. And so this is, for example, this is how it is when the exhibition takes place, that we have a photo and then we have the caption sharing what the people think about it. And then it is very touching too when in the opening you really see not only the photographers themselves, but then old people and young people, and they came and they really, I think it's not the first time that they, of course they see their heritage all the time, but then sometimes when they see it through other people's eyes, other of the fellow community members, and they really realize something that maybe they have missed before. So it is, yeah, like very, very interesting experience. So that's just a very short brief of our work on museum. And like I said, we have an office here in Bangkok, and we are open for developing more museum programs. So if you have any suggestion or any ideas or any proposal for collaboration, and please let us know. And I look forward to working more strongly with the museum sector in Thailand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hack.